Be yourself, be positive. Just another mindset.
Hello, friends, and welcome to a new episode of the Just Another Mindset podcast, the show that inspires you to change and live a more exciting life. My name is Ismael, and each week I bring to you a relevant conversation, message, or topic that will not only entertain you, but help you to change towards a more meaningful and satisfying life, individually and collectively. Let us get inspired and embrace collective changes for the better. In today's episode, I have the great opportunity to speak to Thibaut Meurisse. Thibaut is the author of 20 plus books, including the #1 Amazon bestseller, Master Your Emotions, which has sold close to 300,000 copies and which has been translated into more than 10 languages. In this episode, we talk about changing people's life, one life at a time. We talk about his path becoming a best-selling author in personal development and why it can help to focus on what is already working. We evaluate how not taking any risk is the most risky maneuver in life and how taking a step back can sometimes liberate you to make the greatest progress. You will learn about experimenting and how growth can mean to let go. Thibaut shares his thoughts in Estonia, and we talk about success and how it is inevitably related to taking action. You will learn how it is possible to persevere and be self-compassionate at the same time. And finally, we talk about social media. And if you enjoy and learn from today's podcast episode, please make sure to let Thibaut and myself know. You can, of course, comment on YouTube, you can send us private messages, and what you can also do is to subscribe to the Just Another Mindset podcast YouTube channel. Please let us know which parts of the conversation resonated with you the most, and make sure to let us know if we forgot something or if you would like to add something to this episode. And with that, Thibaut, a warm welcome to the Just Another Mindset podcast. And my first question for you today is, how do you feel and what is on your mind?
How do I feel today, you mean? Yeah, I feel pretty good. And I'm just thinking if I can help one person, when I write a book, I have this mindset of if I can help just one person do one thing, like one positive change in their life, and it's a win, basically. So it's kind of a way to not put too much pressure on myself as a writer or as a speaker. Because basically, if you can do it one time to one person, you can do it to 1 million person. It's the same thing, It's one person times 1 million, It's one reader times 1 million. So it's the same thing.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of my mindset, yeah.
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And Thibaut, you already mentioned you are writing books, and I suppose you're writing on a book right now, but maybe to give our audience a little bit of context, I will give some numbers and then maybe you can talk to who you are and what brings you here today. But you have published, I suppose, more than 20 books. You have some best-selling books out there with some more than 200,000 copies sold. And you are a full-time author. And yeah, Thibaut, what is it that people can know about you?
Oh, it's a great question. Yeah, so I have 20 books, 25, I think 24, 25. Some are shorter, some are longer, it depends. So this is like the best-selling one, Master Your Emotions. It's getting close to 7,000 evaluations on Amazon. So that's crazy. And the funny thing is, I could never predict that. When you write a book, you just write something, you hope it's going to work, you want to reach out to people, as many people as possible. And sometimes you only sell a few hundred or a few thousand copies. And this is like sold over close to 300,000 copies now, I think. And a lot of reading, from Amazon Prime, overseas, foreign rights, many countries. So it's probably 500,000, maybe 1 million readers. I don't know. So it's really crazy.
And there it comes back from this one reader to 1 million readers already. Wonderful.
Yeah, because the way I think about writing is like, if you can write about yourself as a human being to another human being, then because we are very similar in a way, we have very similar brain, very similar psychology, then people think like you're talking to them, but I'm talking to myself as well, and then you have this kind of shared moment together. And other people, they tell me, it's almost like you're speaking to me, you're talking to me like a friend. So I'm really happy with the result of what I was trying to do and to see it actually working based on the feedback I got from my readers. So yeah, it's a really interesting experience. Yeah.
When did you start with personal development, maybe for yourself? And did you at the same point start writing about it, or how did that evolve, let's call it?
Yeah, it's an interesting story as well. I started about even less than 10 years ago, I think, which is not that long if you think about it. 10 years. I mean, I don't know. I think it's not very long. And I was actually preparing for MBA in Japan. I used to live in Japan, so I was preparing for this business school exam. And I bought a book called The Personal MBA. Maybe you know about it. And in the book, they had these book recommendations, and some books were on personal development. So they had audiobooks, Jim Rohn, Earl Nightingale, it's kind of this old like gurus, basically. They passed away now. So I bought these books, audiobooks, and I just love the idea, the psychology, the mindset thing, and how you can change your life. And I just kept listening to the books over and over again, like dozens of times, maybe 50 or 100 times, I don't know, and got really inspired by that. And I realized that, okay, some people are doing videos online, they are writing books about personal development, and they are making a living from that. So I got interested in this idea of making money from my passion, basically. So I then started a blog in 2014 while I was doing my MBA at the same time. It didn't really work out, to be honest. Like I had this idea, I'm going to reach out to millions of people. It's going to be amazing. People will love my content, and didn't really work for a few years. So, and at some point in 2015, I came across Amazon, like basically KDP, which is Kindle Direct Publishing. So it's the idea that you can publish your own book as a self-publisher for free. Just need to have a cover, have a book, and basically sell it on Amazon. So I started with a book on goal setting. And to answer your questions about, yes, I was sharing my story basically. So the idea for me was I'm going to share my story from being unknown to being maybe famous. I don't know if it's the right word, but trying to share my story along the way, how I'm improving my life. So and it worked pretty well. So I'm happy about that. So yeah, people can see that evolution. Yeah, we can see the evolution from the maybe book number two. So it's I think it's interesting. I hope it's interesting for the readers as well as an inspiration, because if you look at the big guy in the industry like Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy and all these guys, like they're very famous, like some are billionaires. I think it's hard to identify with them, as a regular person. You're like, yeah, but he is a billionaire. He doesn't understand my problems. But if I can be like kind of a regular guy, try to be a regular person and talking about my own experience to my readers, they can identify with me more easily. And I think it allows me to, I hope, to have a bigger impact and make them more inspired to actually do something to improve their life as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I can acknowledge you for already having that great impact on so many people out there, Thibaut. So thank you for what you are doing, and thank you for sharing what you are learning with the world. And as you said, I think it's good, at least personally speaking for myself, and easy to relate to your writings. And it's interesting and good fun to read through your books. While you were talking, a question actually came up in my mind, and that is, you said you have now roughly 25 books. How long did it take you to write your first book, and how much time do you, I don't know if there is a standard time that you allow yourself, that you plan for yourself for a new book today?
Yeah, because the first book was more like a test, it was a short book. I don't know, I think it took me a month, maybe something like that, 4 weeks. And after that, I tried to give myself 2 months, 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes 12 weeks, sometimes more. It depends, sometimes it doesn't go as planned. So I'm trying to find a balance between, writing a book and not spending too much time because of the risk involved of not selling the book. As a career, I kind of have to make money at the same time. So for me, the sweet spot was, a couple of months. And actually, this book took maybe 6 to 8 weeks, I think, which is crazy. maybe I shouldn't say that. but the thing to understand is that I already had the idea years before. So it's not like, it's very hard to say it took me 6 to 8 weeks, because I've been thinking about the topic for a couple of years before. I had ideas and I wrote blog posts before. So it's not really a good way to calculate it, the time. Yeah. But the idea is, a couple of months. Yeah.
Okay, understood. And you were already talking about the risk of publishing books. And you have earlier stated that you have a few best-selling copies or best-selling books by now, but I have a few questions on the risk. The first one is, if you now publish a book and you have published a few that were very successful, is it a guarantee that your next books will be a success as well? Or how much risk do you still deal with, Thibaut?
No, it's no guarantee. And no, I don't have a massive following like some big guys know. So for me, it's still a risk to publish a book. I know more about publishing, so it's less risky. I know I will make some sales also with my list of readers already I have. That's why now, actually, my strategy right now is to market this book most of the time, because it's bringing more than 70% of all my sales from one book. So what I decided to do is, okay, I want to write books. And now that I have a best-selling book, I'm going to put all my effort on this book. Because, like, I like to think in terms of strategy, like focus on what's working already. Because why write more books if I can 10x my sales on this book, which I actually did. To give an idea, I won't give you numbers in terms of like dollars, but from the first month back in 2018 to today, I 20 to 25x my sales 4 years later, just because of the marketing and all the word of mouth and stuff like that, which is more effective than writing 25 books, but may not sell. So, it's a trade-off. Yeah, it's a trade-off.
And also, I suppose if you write 25 more books in that short period of a time, there is at least a good chance of repetition. So I believe it makes perfect sense. If you know that you wrote something that is helping people, that is helping one person, that is helping so many people, that you have 7,000 reviews by now, that you have 300,000 copies sold, why not pushing it out to the next 3 million or whatever the numbers be? I think they're irrelevant, but you know that you crafted a good piece of art, of content, and now you want to share it with the world. How wonderful is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a trap of wanting to write more books, which is also a good strategy. But at some point, when you already have something that's working and people like, I want to get it to more people. So like 10 times more people, maybe 100 times, who knows? I don't know the limit about, I know people selling 20, I think, do you know like Paulo Coelho, like the guy who wrote The Alchemist? He sold like 300 million books. It's insane numbers. Like, that's crazy. So who knows?
Yeah, we can talk about glass ceilings and limiting beliefs later on and how to push through them. But maybe let's stick a little bit with this risk, Thibaut. And you said you were pursuing an MBA in Japan. I'm interested, how did you get to Japan and how come you made an MBA in Japan? Because originally you're from France. That's one question. But when did you decide to take the risk and to not pursue, and I'm assuming here, not your business or a finance career, which for you built an MBA, which for you graduated from different universities, but to really focus on becoming an author?
Okay, so let's start with the Japanese part. So I don't really know why I studied Japanese, to be honest, which is more like I'm very curious by nature. So I wanted to learn and do something a little bit different. Like you want to be different, I guess, exotic. So I studied Japanese last year of high school just by myself. And I decided to go to study more Japanese at university. Eventually, I majored in Japanese, got a Japanese study, master degree in France, worked in Japan with the Japanese government, some kind of, it's called a JET program. So I'm not going to talk about it, but maybe some people know about it. For 4 years, and I got my MBA for a couple of years. And after that, actually, I did work as a consultant in Japan for a Japanese company for less than 2 years. But I wasn't really good at it first. I didn't like it. And at the same time, I had this passion for psychology, mindset, personal development. So for me, it wasn't really a risk, I guess, because on one hand, I didn't like my job. I wanted to get out as fast as possible. And I love the blogging thing, the writing book stuff. So I decided I'm going to go all in with that. So at some point I said, okay, I wrote a few books. People like the books. So I got some feedback, I guess, from the marketplace. I wasn't making money, but I got some sales and some feedback. So I realized, okay, I'm going to do that for the next 10, 20, 30 years. And I'll likely be successful if I do that, which what I did basically. So it wasn't, I don't know if it was a risk in that sense. Yeah. Because you have the pain pleasure thing. Yeah. So it's like, yeah.
And you're saying that you worked your job in Japan. I suppose you quit that job. And I'm also assuming that not from month one that you became an author, you lived by being an author. I suppose you went to France in between. Do you maybe want to enlighten us a little bit on those steps?
So I started the blog in 2014, got the MBA. So for let's say 2.5 years, 3 years, like part-time, some time off as well, taking some time off, I guess giving up a little bit for half a year, I think at some point, going back to it until 2017. And I had written, maybe when I quit my job was in June 2017. I think I had written, I don't know, 4 or 5 books maybe. And I wasn't really making money I was spending more than I was making, but I didn't know because I didn't want to know that at the time. Like you don't want to know sometimes the reality. So I went back to France in 2017. I actually went back to seeing my parents for a while. I stayed there for a while. So it was kind of a little bit hard because I was 32 and going back to your parents is not a failure, but your friends are being successful in Japan, they have a career and stuff. But I did that for a year maybe. And then I decided to move to Estonia to have my business there. And since 2019. And and I started making, let's say, some money in 2018 a little bit. And then 19 started to, better in 2019 onwards. 2019,
I have another thought that just comes to my mind, and I've actually recorded the past week a solo episode on taking big decisions. And one technique, one component, I'm sure you're an expert on that as well, but is that sometimes it's also interesting or good to appreciate that taking a step back or cutting down on certain things might be very beneficial over the long term. So if you say, okay, like for 1 year or for 2 years, you go back and you leave this career that you're not interested in pursuing anymore, it may feel like a step back, but it helps you to make a much bigger step forward afterwards. And I can hear when you talk about exactly that, going back to France and now going to Estonia, that you had to take this step, let's call it to the side, to the back, whatever you want to call it, but in order to progress also in your career and in your happiness to become an author. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct. I mean, for me, not being at a job you like, it's very risky. People think I don't like to take risk, but you're taking risk all the time. If you had a job you hate, you're taking risk because you're hating your job every day. What's worse than that? I don't know. For me, it's like doesn't make sense. So that's a risk. And I think people don't understand that not doing anything is risky. Like everything is risky, right? So if you don't take care of your health, it's risky. If you don't like your job, it's risky because you're going to take a toll on your health, on your emotions, maybe on your family, on your friends, I don't know, many areas of your life. For me, I don't know where I was going with that, but the idea is like taking risk is actually not risky. The key is to take calculated risk, like you can't burn your boats if you want, but you still want to have something, safety net. I had some money at the time, so I wasn't like, I had some savings, so I'm doing like crazy things. I think it was calculated. So I had money, I could see the potential. I already had some books out there. I could see the business. My business strategy was good. Okay, I can do that. I was pretty confident. So I jumped, I guess. But
Interesting. And you're talking about risk, and I think a lot of people also associate risk often with the financial aspect. But you also just mentioned health, and probably there's sleep, there is your mental well-being. Is there anything else that comes to mind that maybe people don't talk often enough in regard to risk or living a risky life? Yes, you have a stable income of whatever sound prestigious, but there is a lot of other associated risks with that lifestyle.
Well, the bigger risk is simply not to really fulfill your potential and improve your life. I mean, you're never going to be the best version of yourself if you don't take risk and challenge yourself. It's just the reality. And you will never actually know what you can do. This is, talking about ceilings, like limiting beliefs. Many times I overcome stuff and I was like, oh, it's not possible. Oh, it's actually possible. Oh, it's actually easy. So I like to say everything is hard before it's easy. And, you try something new, it's hard. I'm starting dancing. It's uncomfortable. You look like a fool for a few weeks. We're like, okay, I'm going to go through that. And I'm going to keep going and improve my skills. And the same with everything, with your career, with your health, with your finance. So the biggest risk is not to challenge yourself. So maybe it's taking a risk in a sense, maybe changing your career, trying something new, learning a new skill, feeling like a fool, uncomfortable in some way. That's a bigger risk, I think. So and then you won't be happy at the risk. Not being happy is the biggest risk, bigger than finance. I think, in my opinion.
I fully do agree, definitely. And I don't know if you have a very structured approach to that. You said, okay, you experiment, you try out new things, and sometimes you feel like a fool in the beginning, but it makes you happy. Do you try to find N number of hobbies per year, or try N number of activities, or do you just go with the flow somewhat, and if a friend is trying something, you go with them? Do you have a structured approach on that, or do you just let life happen more or less?
It's more about what I want, what I want to do, like what I'm interested in doing. So dancing, well, I had some issues with my knees before, so I was able to overcome for the most part, going back to sports because I like to work out as well. So now I'm working out, going to dancing. So yeah, more like, well, you're saying like you have to go like where the fear is, right? Like most of the time when you're afraid of something, it means that you kind of want to do it in some way, but you can't, or you're afraid of doing it. It's also a good sign of what do I really want to do, but I'm not doing yet. And why? Because there's such probably reason, some fear behind that. So that might be a good question to ask yourself. Why? Okay, what's my ideal life? Where am I now? What's a gap? And why is there a gap? Is it a mindset thing? Is it a skill thing? Lack of confidence, lack of money. So I think it's maybe a good framework to think about.
How do you figure out for yourself where you want to be and where you want to be in life? And is that a moving target?
Well, I think it's always a moving target. Like, the idea that people think they're going to find their passion and then it's over. But that's just how it works. Like everything in life is a process and it's ever changing. So it's good to have this trying to gain clarity, like every year, every month, maybe. It's not a one-time thing. I think that's where people think, oh, I'm 40, I'm 50, I don't know what I want in life. Why? They think it's only them, but it's everybody, I think. It's a moving target all the time. And for me, it's just trying to go what I want to do, what I enjoy doing. I enjoy reading books, so I'm going to read books. I enjoy learning, so I'm going to learn more stuff. I like to share, I want to share stuff. I like to, when you help someone, it feels good. It really feels good. So I want to help more people. So, okay, so who do I need to be to get there? Like, who do I need to be to 10x my income or my impact, or in the next 5 years, for instance? Was kind of the question I'm asking myself. Like who do I need to be to achieve the goal I have? And what's the gap? How do I close it? Which is easier said than done.
No, absolutely.
That's the idea. Yeah,
Okay.
that's the idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are maybe particular areas? You already mentioned dancing, but what is other areas that you for yourself work on to close certain gaps or to just have fun, Thibaut? Is there anything that comes to mind?
No, I mean, yeah, it's fun, but it's not always fun. When you have to overcome something, it's not fun at the beginning. I think for me, everything that is related to like we're doing now, which is like public speaking, I think I'm not really good at public speaking. And if I really want to scale my business and have more impact, I need to be a better communicator, writing and speaking. Because everything is about influencing people, right? When you want to change people's life, you have to be able to convince them in some way about what you're saying is important or that they can relate to you in some way. So it's about working on my communication skills, mostly speaking skills, public speaking skills. That would be the big step, next step. And also like still a mindset, to be honest, still a mindset. I mean, why am I not 10 times bigger? No, but why am I not Tony Robbins, for instance? What's the difference? Like a lot of it is obviously hard work and stuff, but a lot of it is mindset too. So I'm more focused on how to improve my mindset and break limitations as much as possible right now, in terms of advertising my books, advertising my work, putting myself out there, becoming a better speaker, improving my skills. So that's most of my work. I think it's now it's mindset. Like I think when you reach a certain level, everything becomes mindset. It's like when you're an athlete, the best in the world, the difference is their mindset is the difference. The 1% or the 0.1% versus, I don't know, 20%, 80%, whatever. It's a mindset oftentimes. So that's what I'm most interested in.
Is there any practical techniques or tools that you can share with the audience on how to work on your mindset? And you've already mentioned a few. Maybe we can look into beliefs, limiting beliefs, self-talk, but what comes to mind there?
Wow, it's a big topic. So one thing, as I mentioned before, is like you look at all areas of your life, where you are right now, where you want to be, and what's the gap, and why am I not there? Like, what would I need to believe to be there? And what do I need to believe to not be there? Like, why am I here right now, not there? So that's one way to start looking at some limitation you have. But then the biggest, different ways to do it. One way to change your belief is to be with people who already have achieved what you want, like mastermind or friends. Because when you see someone doing something like you think is impossible, just in front of your eyes, you're like, wow, it's actually possible. He's doing it in front of me. And I think it's one of the biggest way to change is to have friends who are actually doing what you want to do. So you can, let's say you want to do public speaking, but you can go to Toastmasters. These people, they're speaking in public. Okay, I can do it as well. This guy is doing it. I can do it. You have this kind of role models you can imitate. And I think it's very inspiring. Or for me, like to go on YouTube, for instance, and I see someone that inspired me in some way. I'm like, oh, I want to be that guy. And I'm just inspired. And I start taking notes. Okay, what he's doing. Okay, how can I do the same? And I'm very inspired by that as well. Like one guy is like 70 years old, is doing this workout outside, crazy workout, crazy body. I'm like, oh, wow, I want to be like that when I'm 70. So it's very inspiring to me. So I try to have these different models of who I want to be and get inspired, let myself be inspired by these guys. So role models, having some mastermind, some people who can do what you want to do, because it's going to be easier for you to see it as a possibility for you. Because people say, oh, I could never do that, which is almost never true. Like you can do that. You can do it for sure. Like you can do anything, almost anything you want. Just a matter of believing it and doing it one time and doing it again and again until it becomes a habit. So, yeah. And one thing I would say is, instead of having limitation, realize that what if I don't have limitation? So do the opposite. Like, okay, let's assume you don't have limitation. I think it's the best point to start with. I don't have limitation. I can do whatever I want. Now the question is how am I going to do it? Like, who can help me? What can I read? Who can I learn from? And instead of limiting yourself all the time in many areas of your life.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing that, Thibaut. And I have another question that came to mind while you were talking, and that might be personal, so you can choose to answer or not to answer that, of course. And you were talking about changes in your life, like going from different countries to another country and changing from one job to another, becoming an author by yourself. And you also talk about role models and friendships and, I suppose, mentors. How do you cultivate friends would be the first one, and how do you also sometimes let go of connections that don't serve you anymore or that are not good for you anymore? I could imagine, and I'm talking from my own very personal experience, I'm also moving a lot, I'm going from A to B, and I get to know new inspiring people. And as you said, you want to identify with people, you want to connect with those people. That sometimes that also means that leaving behind people or relationships or countries or jobs, or we can basically insert anything here, that you feel are not longer yourself.
Yes. So one thing I did when I moved to Estonia was a good thing, because there's so many people who are entrepreneurs, online entrepreneurs like me. So I could create this kind of network. So I think it really helped me in the mindset part, being accountable, having your friends to go, can go to work out together. Some of my friends are really knowledgeable about health, for instance. So we will share stuff. And I think it's very, very helpful to have these people around you, because like the saying that you have, you are the 5 people you spend the most time with, this kind of saying. So I think it's quite true, not perfect, obviously, just a saying, but So that's one way is to, but in my case was to move where people like you are. So like, which maybe it's a risk as well, but moving somewhere else. Okay, I need to be where people are because your environment is very powerful, I think. And I would say to someone who is struggling, maybe you need to change your environment, even like physically sometimes, even if you don't have money, you need to do whatever it takes to get out of a bad environment and be in a positive one. That would be very valuable. And if you do that, automatically you will exclude people who are in the past environment because you're not there physically. So that's why you're aware you will be distancing yourself from these people. And once you're away from these people, obviously over time, it's good. If you change your mindset, you won't be aligned with what they believe. You will have different values. And I think I don't know if it's automatic, but it just happens. Like if you're honest with yourself, okay, I don't really resonate with this person anymore. So I'm going to just stop replying or stop emailing them as often or stop meeting them as often. And you can start by reducing, like maybe you meet them only once a week and then once a month. And then, over time, you just kind of slow down and it's just, you're just not friends anymore, I guess, at some point. So yeah, one way to move where you want to be, where you'll find people, like-minded people, and yeah, that would be a good thing if you can. And if you cannot, you can find people online, even videos, like even books. I mean, my mentors are books, to be honest, for the most part.
So you basically figured out where might be a good environment for yourself, which is Estonia, because you have like-minded people, you have entrepreneurs, I suppose you have authors who work online, quite a few around. And then you took the decision to move to Estonia. And another personal question would be, how far away is Estonia from France in comparison to Japan from France? Meaning, how often do you meet family now being back in Europe? I suppose it's continental Europe. Has that changed from Japan to France or from Estonia to France? And was that also a reason for yourself to move to Europe?
No, it's way closer. It's like less than 3 hours by plane. Actually, I was back to France. Like I went back to Estonia a few days ago. So I was back for 10 days. So yeah, I usually go back to my family 4 times a year, which I think is every 3 months. I think it's pretty good, 4 times a year for like a couple of weeks maybe. But when I was in Japan, it was once a year max, maybe once every 2 years, because it's like 12 hours airplane. I don't really sleep in the plane. I'm tired. It's a long distance. It's way easier now in Europe for sure. So that's a good thing. Because I can see my family as well. Yeah.
What do you like about Estonia?
I like this. So I'm in Tallinn now. Is the capital of the Estonia. It's like 400,000 people, I guess. So it's not massive. Maybe a little bit small to my taste, but yeah, not too bad. And I like, now I'm living in the old town, so you cannot see, but I have this nice old medieval town around. There's parks everywhere. I really like, it's very good in summer, obviously, but in winter you have a lot of snow. So it depends if you like snow or not. I do get tired as well after a while, but I like the city. I like that it's very quiet. People are nice. I mean, nice in the sense that it's safe, very safe place, as opposed to even in France, some cities are not very safe now. So it's a little bit like Japan in terms of safety. So it's
okay. Wow.
Yeah. Not as, I think Japan is safer, to be honest, but it's almost 90% there, 95% there. Yeah. So never have any problem in Estonia. Beautiful city. People are nice. Yeah, I mean, more like reserved, I guess. No, northern country are more like reserved. People like more maybe shy or introverted. But I'm also from Normandy, which is north of France. So I guess maybe somewhat similar. I guess similar vibe. But I know I have friends who are in Estonia are more like more like Latin. They like Latin America. They like Mexico. So they're not like they want to move probably there, I guess, at some point. But yeah, it really depends on your personality as well, I think.
Okay, interesting. What are some challenging or were difficult aspects for moving to Estonia for yourself, if any?
Honestly, it wasn't really complicated. It's very simple to get the visa, to get your business up and running. It's very easy. And I already had this kind of community there because I joined a program to be part of a community. So I think it was. It's very easy to find a place, find an apartment. in France, they ask you a lot of paperwork, and here it's like, as long as you pay, you're good to go. So pretty easy. And I was living in Japan before for like a long time. So I guess I'm used to live in other countries. So wasn't too big of a leap for me. Yeah.
And maybe the last question on Estonia, but do you think this is a country where you want to settle for long term, or can you also picture yourself moving somewhere else again, or is that really something you don't know?
So at first I wasn't thinking I would stay for a long time. Now I'm like kind of liking it now, getting, I said, learning, having activities, making friends, going out. So what might do is I might stay there for a while and traveling like you're doing, traveling maybe half a year or maybe traveling a couple of months a year, and while staying here, and maybe I move somewhere else. I don't know, yeah. So far, I think I would stay here for a few years, probably.
Sounds like you are living a happy and excited life over there. So why not staying there until, that maybe fades away at some point, and then I'm sure you will change something about it. And well, maybe we can talk about some personal development in that regard. And that is, what is success for yourself? How do you define success?
One thing I like to say is like, when you feel like you are what you're supposed to be, like, when you feel like you want to escape and be somewhere else, sometimes. When I was at my job, I wanted to be somewhere else all the time. I was looking at the clock. I was, oh no, one more day. I don't want to be here. Now I'm like, yeah, I'm where I'm supposed to be. And I think for me, it's success. When you are where you're supposed to be, and you feel like you're doing what you're supposed to do, which is, I guess, maybe hard to reach, but that's how I feel about it. So it's doing what you're supposed to do and feeling like you are at the right place would be one definition of success, I think, for me. So beyond, just financial success and everything, but yeah.
No, that makes perfect sense. And maybe for our listeners, how can they attract more success for themselves? Or what are certain traits or what are certain experiments that you have maybe gone through in order to, feel more authentic, more with yourself, and hence more successful?
Yeah. It made me think of the quote from Jim Rohn, but I really like it. Success is not to be pursued, it's to be attracted by the person you become. And I really like this quote because instead of being always chasing success all the time, trying to networking, and I don't really like this stuff. I think if you really become a good person, like you really work on yourself very hard, like discipline and a mindset and beliefs, and learn what you want to learn, new skills, be a good learner, read books, I think you will get there. You will reach success in your own term at some point. So it's really about focusing on yourself, which is, people might say, oh, it's selfish. I think it's only thing you can do is to focus on yourself. And when you're happy, you can share what you want people, you can help people. I think you're in a better position. So I would say, work on yourself, as if your life depends on it, basically. Work on your discipline, mindset, communication skills, learn skills you need to learn how to learn, read books, take action, because the big thing is take action. People in a personal development are often like junkies, personal development junkies. So they're always reading books, and they don't really take action. You have to take action as much as possible. And a good way to know if you're taking action is, are you at a different place today that you were a year ago, for instance, like mentally, physically, financially, spiritually. And if you're not, why? That's a very serious question to ask yourself. Am I changing? And if not, I'm not doing personal development. I'm lying to myself. So that's really important. You have to change. You have to see change in your belief, in your attitude, in your habits, in your mindset, in your career, in your relationships, in your happiness. You have to notice that at some point. And if you don't, it's like you have to change something, I'm afraid.
No, absolutely. I recall a podcast episode, and sadly I don't remember exactly whom that was from, but I'm paraphrasing here, and they were discussing the very same. And it said, if you use personal development and you read all the books and you listen to all the podcasts and you do not act on it, it's just a different form of entertainment.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So you
yeah,
can
exactly,
also stay home and and just watch series or read fiction books. And I'm not saying anything about watching series or reading fiction books, but if you do not act on all that personal development content that you are consuming, in the end, it's only content you're consuming and it's not transformational work that you are doing. And I hear that you are saying the same thing, that you should also start acting.
And what I like to say, personal development is not a hobby. Like it's not hobby, it's very important, it's very hard. And you're gonna have, at some point, you're gonna have emotional pain and maybe physical, maybe not physical, but emotional pain, like the discipline that you have to keep working on your goals and stuff like that is very hard at some point. And the reason why I'm talking about taking action is because I wasn't like that before. I was the junkie guy. I was reading all the books, and I was still shy, introverted, not getting results in life, not being confident, being very frustrated about aspect of my life. And I reached a point I was tired of it. I say, enough is enough, And I don't care what I need to do. I'm going to change my life. It's, like this kind of point when you're just tired of it. You say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to change my life. So I start taking action all the time, action every day. And if you do that over a long period of time, you will change your life. It's just almost a law of universe. If you take action every day and you improve, at some point you will see, people will see it, that you're changing. It has to.
No, I fully agree. Absolutely fully agree. Do you remember that particular day or moment or event when you told yourself, okay, Thibaut, this is not the way forward, but we're going to take action now? Is there a certain place, area, thought?
I don't really remember, but I know, like, for a long time, even when I was in my 20s, even before, I was thinking, I want to do great thing in life. I want to have an impact. That's kind of this vision I had, long for many years. But I was getting to 30 years old and still not really doing anything interesting. Or, like, for me, I was like, man, I'm getting older. I need to do something now. It's time for me to change, to do something. If I want to have the life I want, the vision I have, I need to take action. So I guess it was more like a gradual process. And just at some point I was like, okay, I really need to change something.
And lucky us that you did take this decision and that you became an author of so many books that help so many people. So I think keep on taking action, Thibaut. I think that makes very good sense. And another question I have is, you talk a lot about goal setting and making that also actionable. So let's stick with the actionable. And I would be very interested, Thibaut, if you want to speak to that. What is your current goals for your life?
Okay, so actually interesting, because this year I was like, I had these issues with my knees, like some health issues. I'm like, okay, like feeling a little bit old in a sense, I guess. I say, I need to change. I know it's not acceptable. No, I need to change. So I make a decision. I'm going to get to my best shape by the end of this year. So my goal is my best shape emotionally, financially, and physically, basically, in all areas of my life by the end of this year. So that was my overall goal. And then what I did, I broke it down into like this KPI, I guess. People know what it's like, success factors or metrics. Because you need to make them, you need to be able to measure your success or your progress at some point. So these goals are like the body fat, or like how many kilos I'm weighing, or like the workout results, or how many steps I'm walking every day, stuff like that, to make it very like trackable. And I think I've been doing pretty well so far. So 90 more days, less than 90 days to go. It was inspiring for me to say I'm going to be in the best shape of my life, this year, basically, ever. So that was inspiring. So maybe people will be inspired to do the same or something similar this year or next year.
Absolutely. How often do you do such a goal setting or goal reviewing exercise with yourself? And maybe you can talk us through in actual terms. How does it practically look? Do you use a piece of paper? Do you use your laptop? Do you use a Miro board? How does Thibaut approach that?
I like to keep things very simple. I don't like people making things complicated all the time, which is why I'm writing my books in a way that is easy to understand. But pen and piece of paper, you can just, these days I'm not very disciplined, maybe. I don't know if it's a word, because I guess I'm in a good spot. Like, in my life, and I don't feel the need to be super structured all the time. I am, but I'm not really setting goals I used to in the past. So that's a reality. But because I'm, I guess, successful, I don't know. So because I did it before, now I can enjoy it. I can be a little bit less structured. But I used to have yearly goals. I still have yearly goals, and then you can break down into 90-day goals, monthly goals, and weekly goals, and daily goals. So the idea of starting with the big picture in mind, because you want to make sure that your action today are linked with your goal in next year, or 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years. That's how you build momentum, and how you have a massive impact, I think, with your action. Because if one day you do something, next day you do something else, you're never really able to build momentum and over time, or build this compound effect, like investing. So I would, and then I have a piece of paper every day. I say, okay, what do I need to do today that is really important? So I would write down the main task and focus on what is really, really effective based on my goal, right? Because oftentimes people spend a lot of time on like not very effective tasks, like I'm going to spend hours on changing my logo, or like creating business cards. I don't know. But I'm more focused on, how can I improve my sales? How can I improve my profits? How can I get more customers? That kind of questions for me, at least for my business, is very effective. So I'm really focused on getting it.
And I suppose, again, it's a little bit of trial and error. And maybe we can actually use one example, because when I did some research, Thibaut, on yourself and for this very interview here, I realized, and I also heard in other podcast episodes that you did before, that you tried social media and you understood for yourself that this is, for example, not your marketing channel, or not the channel that you want to speak to the world. So maybe you can talk to social media or different attempts that you tried, but that you realized is not for you, and maybe also why it's not for you.
Yeah, I think there is a time when you need to try out stuff. It's very hard to come up with a perfect strategy from the beginning, because you don't know what works. So I tried, social media, posting quotes on Instagram, Facebook, like Pinterest, guest posts, some podcast interviews, my blog as well, books, coaching, not so much, a little bit. So I tried many different things. And I realized over time, okay, what's really working is writing more books. At the time, I was writing more books and doing Amazon ads for the most part, and having an email list, get people on my list as well. So I did that, and I tried always to stay focused on that for like a couple of years. But it was hard, every time, I would say, oh, I should try this, I should try that. My friends telling me I should do coaching, I should do a mastermind. I was, no. I know what I have to do. I have a strategy. I know what I can do. So I really stuck to that. It was very hard, to be honest. And I even have this mantra, like, all I have to do is to write more books. The kind of mantra, all I have to do is to write more books. That's my mantra for years, So I would get distracted. No, all I have to do is to write more books. Write more books. And now, as I said, I'm changing a little bit with I have other strategies right now, but it's actually, I'm using Instagram to promote my book, which I don't know if I should tell that, it's a secret, but it's very effective for me, for this book. And it was a test. I was like, it's never going to work. So I spent a couple of $1,000 on ads, on promoting my book. It kind of blew up, and wow, okay. So I did more, and it worked again. So I did it again, it worked. So I'm still doing it these days, but maybe 1 year would change and I would do something else. But the key is, you need to try stuff. You need to try try many things, and over time, try to find what's working for you. Also based on your personality, I'm not really big on social media, so maybe you're a writer, maybe you're a better speaker, so you can find your what you want to do, based on your goals.
And I think one component is trying and figuring out what works for you, but also accepting and understanding what does not work for you, and put your time and your effort somewhere else, is it not?
Yes. I have friends, they've been trying to be successful for years. I'm like, but you still do the same thing for 10 years. You have to do something else. It doesn't work. It's been 10, 15 years. And I was just like, why are you still doing the same thing? You have to be smart enough. So you have to persevere. But after a while, after a few years, it's okay. It's been 3 years now. It's a good time. Am I getting results? I am getting sign of success or not? And if not, maybe you need to think about a strategy, rethink your strategy. So it's a little bit tricky, but yeah. because you have to persevere, but you also have to be flexible enough to realize it doesn't work. Something doesn't work for me.
To pivot. No, I think that makes perfect sense. Let's talk about perseverance a little bit. Maybe there is few examples that you have where you persevered. I could imagine the early ages or the early days of your author career. And I also read somewhere, I believe in the description of one of your books, that being too hard on yourself does not in fact work. And you've mentioned Tony Robbins a few times, and I think the whole self-development from the 80s and especially the 90s is push through, persevere, be hard on yourself, know what you want, and you will eventually get there. So where do you differ from that opinion, and what is your thoughts on perseverance, if you have some?
I don't see no reason why you cannot do both, which is like you want to be self-compassionate, but you want to never give up. That's what I do. Because actually, the way I see self-compassion is like you have this safety net, like it's a bit hard. That's working. It's okay, Thibaut. You'll get there. It's okay. Keep going. It's okay. I keep going. So you're kind of talking to yourself in that way. It create this, I call it an emotional, a safety net for your emotional well-being, which is self-compassion. That's what prevents you from getting depressed too much, because to be successful, you have to be, let's say, to feel good about yourself most of the time and for a long enough period of time, even when it's hard. Even when it's hard, that's the thing. So I would be, always be self-compassionate, which actually work. It will make you more perseverant, and encourage yourself. You can do it. Keep going. It's okay. Keep going. Keep going. So I don't see it as you can do both actually. So it's kind of a myth that you have to be hard on yourself, which I did before. I stopped doing it years ago, and that's never really. I'm doing pretty good. So I think it's a proof that it's you don't need to be harsh on yourself. So you want to be like a coach, which is like counterintuitive. People think, but if I'm not pushing myself, I'm not going to do anything, which is not true either. So you will do stuff. You will keep doing stuff for sure.
I think in the end, it's about the balance, right? And if you know what you are doing, or if you're doing the right thing, it doesn't really feel like pushing through as much. There will be times, there will be examples, there will be nights, there will be weeks that are tougher than others and where you maybe question. But in the end, if you are going the right direction, you will also feel that this is the right direction. And Thibaut, you already mentioned a very interesting aspect, and that is self-talk. So you just talked a lot about positive self-talk to encourage yourself that this is the right path. Maybe you can talk to self-talk a little bit, like positive and negative, what kind of impact it can have.
Yeah, well, self-talk is, I don't know if it's everything, but we say like, you become what you think about most of the time. So what you think about is what you're telling yourself as well. So, why am I so stupid? Why did I do that? Kind of be asking ourselves questions all the time, or talking to ourselves all the time. And oftentimes it's not really serving us in any way. So the first thing is to try to be more aware of how you're talking to yourself, which I think most people aren't very aware of that. They haven't taken the time to observe their self-talk. So that would be the first step. And every time you see yourself saying bad thing about yourself, like maybe you insult yourself, then you replace it. You say, okay, you change it and you say it different way. So if you say, oh, why am I so stupid? No, okay, no. I try my best. I did a mistake. It's okay. I'll do better next time. And how can I do better next time? So that kind of practice. That's what I did years ago to kind of practice. And every time I would say something bad to myself, I would change that, reframe that in a different way until it becomes a habit over time. And as you do that, you realize actually, you feel better about yourself because your thinking affects your beliefs, affect your feelings over time. So that's why it's important to notice how you're talking to yourself, because it will affect how you feel and what you do. So, and what result you will get in the long term as well.
And by that, somewhat mastering your emotions, which is the book that you have showed us a few times, right? So if you always think bad about yourself or are angry with yourself, chances are that you're not going to make much progress. But if you encourage yourself and if you fail here and there, but learn from it, I don't even know if there is such a thing as failure or if there's just learnings, but that's, I guess, a whole different topic. I think it gets you towards the next steps, right? And if you encourage yourself to move on and to try new things or to push through with this method that you understand works for you, I think that can help.
Because like if you never give up on some worthy goals you have, you will, most of the time you will reach your goals. That's the reality. At least for me, that's how I know for me, like perseverance it has helped me achieve almost anything I wanted. It's crazy. And I really believe if you can persevere, if you can develop this great perseverance, which work alongside self-compassion. That's the same thing. If you can be more self-compassionate, you will be more perseverant, because you won't be depressed all the time. Like, oh my God, did I do that again? So you will be able to be more stable emotionally, and you will keep going. You'll be more consistent, and become more consistent every day. You build compound effect over time, and you get better results. And then you feel better about yourself because you're getting better results, right? So it's like helping a lot in the process.
How does it help you personally, maybe as well, to also allow a certain uncertainty, if you will? So yes, you have your goals, and yes, you have the path that you want to develop towards, but also accepting that you will not know each and every step over the next 10 years. So you went away from your safe income, you went away from your safe job, and you took that risk. How does uncertainty help you, and what does it do to Thibaut if he's uncertain about something?
I don't know if it's uncertainty, but it's having this long-term vision in mind that helps you. You don't know how. I like to say you don't need to know how, you need to know why. Because the how, you'll find many ways. Like there's so many ways. It's like if you play chess, you have always different ways to move what you're doing, to move your chess pieces, I guess. I don't know how you call that. You always have different moves in life. So the how is not so important, but the why. Why do you want to write books, or why do you want to change your career? Why do you want to do this particular job or particular goals? If you really want to do it, you will be more perseverant, you will be more resourceful, you will find the techniques, hows, resources, programs, coaching, whatever, people along the way. So it's not really important to know how the thing. So I didn't know how. And so 10 years ago, 10 years ago, I said, I want to sell millions of books. I didn't know how I would get there, to be honest. I have some ideas. I said, it doesn't really matter. I kind of have a first step. I know what I need to get on Amazon. I need to get into the algorithm. I need to get some traction there. Then we go to the next step, But so focus on the why and take the first step. That's, I think, all you need to do. And then over time, you will find out what to do. And maybe you change direction. So finally, I don't really like this goal. I think it's better if I go that direction. But you will learn along the way, and you will find what's right for you. So the worst thing is not doing anything, not taking risks, not doing anything. You have no feedback so I could feedback from reality. You have no feedback from the world because you're not taking action. So you don't know if it's right, if it's wrong. You don't know what your talent is. You don't know what your skills are. And you get stuck at the same place. So that's the worst thing. Not doing anything is the worst thing. You have to do something.
Absolutely. Again, reference to the solo episode that I just recorded a few days ago is not taking a decision is a very risky decision by itself, right? Because we always think that, okay, I have option A and option B, and if I just ponder on it for another half a year, or if I'm not doing anything, then things will stay the same. They will not. There is this option C and not doing something, and usually not doing anything is the most risky option because you stay in a place, you stay in a spot where you're not moving anymore, and that's the difficulty.
Yes, exactly. Well, there's no such thing as not taking decision. That's a way to put it, Because not taking a decision is taking a decision not to take a decision.
Exactly.
It's the same thing, the risk. Not taking risk is like not taking a decision not to take risk, which is a risk because you're not improving and learning along the way, getting feedback from the world, discovering maybe some of your passions, some of your weaknesses you need to work on, finding resources, finding friends, finding mastermind. So you have to move. Life is moving all the time. It's not possible to stop it. So that's why we always have to move in some way. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Thibaut, for that expertise and for sharing your knowledge. And I, in fact, have a few questions that I ask each and every of my podcast guests. But Thibaut, before we go there, is there certain topics or is there certain areas, themes that we did not talk about sufficiently today that you are very curious about right now or that are very dear to you that you would like to share with the audience?
I don't know. I would just say do more of the things you enjoy doing and go into that direction and see what happens. It's just life, So move somewhere, move. You have to move. Yeah, that's a message, I guess.
Take action and keep moving. I think that makes
do something.
Perfect sense. Do something. Sounds good, Thibaut. Thibaut, if there's people from the audience who want to reach out and take action to engage with you, how do they reach you and how can they communicate and connect with you?
So one way is Amazon. So you can just type my name on Amazon. You find all my books. I have a website, which I'm going to create a new one soon, but now it's whatispersonaldevelopment.org. Then I will have thibautmeurisse.com soon. So my name and family name, which, new expanding the business, I guess. So website or Amazon, I think is the best way to find me.
Wonderful. I will make sure to link that to the podcast notes. And Thibaut, a question that I like to ask authors in particular is, what are books other than your own that you like to gift to people and why?
Yeah, the thing, I don't really give books. That's a good thing. I should do probably. But actually, I do sometimes recommend or lend some of my books. So I do, I guess. I like The One Thing. So I don't know if you know the book. The One Thing, it's the idea of focusing on having this vision, focusing on the right thing, right action with the maximum impact, maximum leverage, instead of going all over the place with shiny object syndrome. And so I think it's solve the problem people have. So I would recommend The One Thing. I think it's a good start. And I loved still. I was listening to like Jim Rohn and Earl Nightingale, like audiobooks, like a few weeks ago. So it might remind me of when I was younger, I guess 10 years ago, and still pretty good. So yeah, you can check out YouTube, Jim Rohn, or like audiobooks they have. It's pretty good. Yeah, and the thing, don't read too many books. That's I know it's strange because I have many books, and I say to people, don't read too many books, but I need to sell books as a business, so it's kind of strange. But I say, just focus on one book, take action, get results from that book, and then move on to a different book. So that's what I would say as well.
Interesting.
Again, action.
Interesting. Yeah. So how many books, I don't know if there's a rule of thumb, but do you read per year or per month? Curiosity question.
I'm in a very different position because my job is to read many books. So I don't do like me, but I do read maybe 100 books a year. I don't know, or more. Yeah, quite a depends on the year. It depends, but I like to read a lot of books because it gave me ideas or example for my own books. So I do need to consume content, and I like it. But I try to make sure I'm also taking some action in my business. So that's the thing. So I mean, you can read books, but
are most of them in personal development, or is there also very different categories?
I read a lot of personal development, psychology, but I also read economy, some books on economy as well. I like economy. I don't read many fiction. I like it, but for some reason I never get to it. I'm always drawn toward this mindset, psychology, brain books. So yeah, I guess when you like something, you just keep in that doing the same thing, which is good. I mean,
no, absolutely. Yeah. Did you ever attempt to write fiction yourself, or is that something that you could imagine yourself doing, or not really?
I don't know, because writing in English is really hard, but fiction in English for me, it's way out of right now it's way out of my league. Not saying it's impossible, because I would say it's possible, but I would be out of my league. But maybe if it's a fictionalized novel about stories with some kind of stories about personal development, like The Alchemist, basically. You have a story, but you also have, at the end, you have some moral, something to learn from it. So it could be a way to get a message across in a different way. Maybe it's more powerful, I don't know, because The Alchemist sold I think almost 100 million copies. So I guess it's working. So maybe it's an idea. But for now, no, not in the near future.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that anyways. And yeah, now I have my last and final 3 questions for today's podcast episode. And the first one, Thibaut, would be, what motivated and influenced you over the past week?
Wow, over the past week. Wow, it's a really very good, very hard question. What did I do in the past? I don't know, to be honest. Is it a person or like an event or something?
It can be anything.
Well, motivate me. Well, I'm generally speaking, I'm quite motivated these days. So just going back to I was back to France for 10 days. So now I'm back to going to working out, which I enjoy. So I guess I'm motivated to go back to working out. And as improving the body, improving the mind together, I think it's good. So yeah, I'm motivated by working out, I guess. Yeah. Dancing. Yeah, good. I forgot about dancing. Yeah. Dancing is pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. I like it.
What is it that you like about it?
About dancing? Well, I used to, when I was younger, I go to these clubs and I would do this. I like this kind of my crazy dance, my own dance, like crazy dance, kind of crazy. So I enjoy dancing just as natural thing to do. But now it's more structure, obviously, but I do want to become a good dancer. I maybe learn different dances over time. So now I'm starting with bachata, which is kind of the simplest one, I guess, to begin with. And then we have salsa, you have other dances, so maybe house music, I don't know. But yeah, I want to keep doing it and improve it. Yeah, it's a way because like when you're a writer, you spend a lot of time in your mind and you're reading books, very intellectual thing. And I felt the need to go back to working out, walking, dancing, more in the body, to be more balanced in my life. And also, like as I mentioned in the book, maybe not as much as I should about emotion, is sports, exercising is very effective, to feel good about yourself. Walking, dancing, working out, meditating, all this stuff are very good to improve your health, mental health,
component,
and health as well. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing that, Thibaut. And the second question would be, whom are your mentors and who do you look up to?
Yeah, so I don't have like mentors, except from books, because for me, books, I think it's cheap. You have mentors in books. You can just read the books and learn from them. So who are my mentors? Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. It's strange because I was thinking, I have people here and there. So I like this guy about the physics. I like this guy about this. Now I was getting into skincare routine. So this guy has good skin. He's 58. He's look like 35. I like it. So that's the way I do. I look at someone. I find someone I just do the same thing, and I just kind of add these different models in my life. So I don't know, in business, I don't know who. I do like Elon Musk. I mean, like it or not, he's really like ambitious. He's really getting shit done. So it's really impressive. So I really like, I was thinking about writing a book about him actually. So I changed my mind about that, but I did some learning and some studying. So I'm really interested in this, how he's thinking, about his business, how he's thinking about life. So I like to learn from people like that. Yeah, very smart people.
Maybe you put it into a fiction character and write your first fiction best-selling book depicting Elon Musk on some future planet or something.
And one thing I was thinking about is like, he has a business obviously, but what if you apply his concept of business in personal development? So for instance, he said like, if he doesn't break the law of physics, it's possible. But I say the same about myself. If I don't break the law of physics, I can do whatever I want. No, if I don't break, I can achieve my goals. I can go outside. I can talk to people. I can learn skills. I'm not breaking any laws. So I kind of like to try to see what I can learn from him in terms of personal development from business, because I think we are kind of a business ourselves. Like we have to market ourselves. We do PR, we do R&D, working on ourselves to become better, to do some research and development. So I like to think in terms of how can I learn from businesses to change my life, personal life. Yeah.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. Thank you very much for that, Thibaut. And my last and final question for today's episode is a rather hypothetical one. And I call it the 3 truths or the 3 facts. And Thibaut, I would like you to imagine that you are traveling all by yourself in space. Actually, for quite some time, for a couple of months or even for a couple of years. And after a long solo journey, you encounter a human-like species. And they can only process 3 facts or 3 truths about humanity before they decide whether or not they want to get to know us. What do you tell them?
I would say I believe that most people are good, but based on their environment, they can be bad. But I think if you take a human being, you put it in the right environment, it can become great human being, right? But and vice versa. So I would say, is it 1 fact or is it 2 facts? I don't know. So yeah, and what else? If you compliment them in a genuine way, they will grow. If you like insult them, they will kind of retract or like shrink. Like a flower, like the idea of a flower. If you talk about, you try to coach someone, you're trying to empower the person as opposed to putting them down. So that would be, I guess, the second point. And the third one, so the goal is to get them to want to come, right? So it's positive things or not.
I guess that's up to you as well.
Okay, most people who hate, like, don't take things personally. Don't take things personally, because most people are not. It's not about you most of the time. People have this. They're in a bad mood. They have problems in their life, so they try to lash out on someone else. Oftentimes, but then it's not about you. So don't take things too personally, I would say. If you go to Earth, right?
Wonderful,
Yeah.
Thibaut. Thank you very much for that very inspiring and insightful conversations. And if there is any final remarks or words that you have for the audience, it's all yours.
Okay, Dodge, I just hope one person will be inspired by what I'm saying and do something about their life, one positive change, or maybe they have some mindset change or some epiphany or something, and they just take the first step, keep going, and yeah, see where it takes you. Don't assume that it's not possible. Just do things.
Wonderful.
Take
Thibaut,
action.
Thank you so much for being a guest on the Just Another Mindset podcast. And yeah, have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was nice.
If you enjoy and learn from the Just Another Mindset podcast, please make sure to share this episode with a friend or two and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. And if you want to receive a brief overview of what made me think over the past week and join like-minded individuals, you may want to sign up to my weekly newsletter. It is easy to sign up. It is super easy to unsubscribe again. You will get information on the newest podcast episode, and you will also get an overview of the content, books, and podcasts mainly, that I am consuming, and I evaluate what I've learned over the past week. You will also get your weekly dose of optimism, because you will receive the Smile News with 7 things that went right this week. And finally, you will get access to all my speaker notes that you can use to follow exercises and answer questions discussed in the podcast. Just follow the link in my bio to sign up for my newsletter, and I'm already excited to see you on the other side. If there is any future topic or guest that you would like to hear more about on the Just Another Mindset podcast, please let me know by leaving a comment on YouTube or sending a mail directly to contact@ismaelwondergarten.com. And if nobody told you lately, be reminded that you are worthy, you matter, and you can achieve anything.